All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are tackling a truly massive, almost hidden pool of global wealth. We're talking about a system that, for a lot of us, feels like a total relic of the past, but it's still one of the biggest financial forces on the entire planet.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this money. Then, we'll follow the trail to see where it's all piled up. We'll get into why it's so concentrated, look at the serious pressures this whole system is facing, and then we'll bring it all back home to what it means for you and your retirement.
Okay, part one, a $25 trillion world. You know, for younger generations, this whole idea of pensions is kind of weird. Is it just something from the history books, or is there a massive hidden treasure here we need to know about?
Just look at that number for a second. $25 trillion. That's how much pension wealth is currently floating around the globe. To put that into perspective, that's bigger than the entire U.S. economy. It's an absolutely mind-boggling amount of money.
But here's the twist, right? For most of us, especially if you're a millennial or younger, the whole idea of a traditional pension, where your company just gives you a check every month for the rest of your life, it sounds like a fantasy. It's something from our parents' or grandparents' time, a system that really started to disappear back in the 80s and 90s.
So that leads us to the big mystery we're trying to solve here. If this system is basically ancient history for so many of us, then who on earth controls this $25 trillion? Where is it? And whose money is it, really? Let's go find out.
All right, Section 2, the Great Concentration. We're going to follow the money now, and I got to tell you, where it leads is pretty shocking.
So get this, almost half of all public pension assets in the entire world are in one country, the United States. I mean, that's just staggering. Not a quarter, not a third, nearly 50%. That leaves every other country on Earth, including huge economies like Japan and Canada, basically fighting over the scraps.
And when you look at the actual numbers, it gets even crazier. The U.S. is sitting on almost $12 trillion. Then look at the drop to number 2, Japan, at just over $2 trillion. The U.S. has more pension money than the next 7 countries on the list combined. It's just an unbelievable concentration of capital. So the takeaway here is that this isn't just about the U.S. being on top. It's about how this wealth is held by a tiny, exclusive club of nations. Just 8 countries hold over 80% of all the world's pension assets. And if you zoom out to the top 23 countries, you've basically accounted for all of it. We're talking over 96%. The rest of the world barely registers. Okay, Section 3, Markets, Maturity, and Money. We've seen the what and the where. So now for the multi-trillion-dollar question, why? Why is all this money piled up in just a handful of places? And the answer starts to get really clear when you look at this. It is a striking parallel. The U.S. share of global pension money is an almost perfect mirror image of its share of the global stock market. Both are sitting right around 50%. And trust me, that is definitely not a coincidence. It's our biggest clue.
It all boils down to this one key idea: financial market maturity. Think about it like this. If you're going to manage trillions of dollars over decades, you can't just stick it under a mattress. You need a financial system that is incredibly deep, stable, and sophisticated. You need a place where you can safely invest enormous amounts of money for a very, very long time. And that's really the bottom line. The amount of pension money a country has isn't just about how much its people save. It's a direct reflection of how developed and trustworthy its financial markets are. That's why that list of top countries is full of high-income, developed economies.
So, let's move on to Section 4, a system under pressure. Because just because this system is enormous doesn't mean it's invincible. In fact, we're starting to see some pretty serious cracks in that $25 trillion foundation.
The number one enemy of these old-school pension plans? Demographics. It's pretty simple, really. We have an aging population around the world. That means more and more people are retiring and drawing benefits out of the system, while fewer younger workers are paying into it. It's a basic math problem that's creating a huge imbalance.
And that imbalance has very real consequences. How real? Well, in 2023, public pensions across the U.S. alone were short by 1.6 trillion dollars. That's the gap, the giant IOU, between what they've promised to pay people in retirement and the money they actually have on hand.
And a shortfall that big creates a really dangerous cycle. The people managing these funds are under massive pressure to make up that gap, right? So what do? They have to chase higher returns, which means moving money into riskier and riskier investments. And the problem with that is, higher risk can lead to bigger losses, which could make the shortfall even worse in the future.
It's a vicious cycle.
So, after all that, what does this mean for us, for you and me? That brings us to our final section, your retirement, your control. We are living through a massive shift, away from relying on big institutions and toward a new world of personal responsibility.
And this lays it out perfectly. The old world was the defined benefit pension. Your employer was in control and you were promised a guaranteed payout. The new world is the defined contribution plan, things like a 401k. And in this world, you are in the driver's seat. You control how much you save, you pick the investments, and ultimately you own the outcome.
And this, right here, is the most important takeaway for our generation. Just as the source material concludes, when you look at the shaky future of these giant pension funds, the writing is on the wall. The responsibility is shifted to us. We have to take control ourselves.
So that's what it all comes down to. The era of just sitting back and waiting for a guaranteed pension check, that's over. For better or for worse, you are now the fund manager of your own future. And the only question left is, are you ready for the job?